Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be making the coconutiest cake ever. If you like to see how I make this, please keep watching. So for this recipe, I'll be using coconut oil, and this is the coconut oil I'm using for this recipe. I'll also be using unsalted butter, about 2 tablespoons of unsalted butter for this recipe, and I'll be using brown sugar as well as coconut sugar. So that's the coconut sugar I'm using for this recipe. So I'm just drizzling it all over, and I'm going to give it a good mix till all the ingredients are properly incorporated and blended together. So after mixing it for about 5 to 10 minutes, this is how my butter and oil mixture looks like. Now I'll be adding my eggs. So I'm using 4 eggs for this recipe. I'll just be adding it one after the other while giving it a good mix to make sure each one is properly incorporated before adding the next one to it. And now I'm gonna be mixing it till each of them are properly incorporated and well blended with the recipe. Next, I'll be using coconut flour. I'll also be using baking powder and baking soda for this recipe. Now I'm just gonna sift it into the batter, and I'm just make sure it incorporates air into the batter. Then I'm gonna start mixing it again, and I'll be interchangeably adding coconut milk. So this is the coconut milk I'm using for this recipe. I'll be adding coconut milk to this recipe while also adding coconut flour. I mixed it with a little bit of self-raising flour in order for the cake batter to rise up well. Next, I'll be adding vanilla, which I just added, and I'm going to give it a good mix as well to make sure the ingredients are properly incorporated. And like I said, I'll be interchangeably adding coconut flour and the milk as well until each of them is properly incorporated to this recipe. So after adding the remainder of the coconut milk, I'm just gonna give it a good mix again to make sure it's properly blended with the rest of the ingredients as well. So I'm just giving it a good mix. So next, I'm just gonna bring down the edges of the batter in the bowl, and I'm just gonna mix it so you guys can see how soft and moist this batter looks like. So next, I'll be pouring it into my baking pan. So you can see it's lined with parchment paper and it's already buttered up. So now I'll be pouring my batter into different sections, and I'll be splitting it into the 2 pans that I'll be using for baking. So now I'm just gonna smoothen it out so you can see how good this looks like. I'll be baking it at 180 degrees for 45 to 50 minutes. You can see my butter, and they're going straight into the oven right now. So after baking, you can do the toothpick test to know if your cake is done, and this is how my cake looks like. When the toothpick comes out clean, you know your cake is done. They look lovely and so colorful, even despite not adding anything to it. So next, I'll be doing my butter icing. I'm not a professional, so don't follow what I'm saying from here onwards. It's just a cake I made at home to eat, so I'm just doing whatever I want. So I buttered up, I mixed my butter until it was light and fluffy. Now I'm just adding my icing sugar in batch, like you can see as I'm doing. If this is your first time visiting my channel, you're welcome. Please support me by subscribing to my channel to upload new recipes every week, and I'll be glad to add you in the Moga's Meal family. Thank you. So I added a little bit of milk to it, and this is how my icing looks like. And I'm just gonna use it like that because, like I said, it's a homemade cake and I'll be having it at home. So this my cake look like, and I just want to cut the edges of the cake. Like I said, I'm not a professional. I don't even know why I did this, because at the end of the day you see why I'm saying this. It felt like I just did nothing. So now I'm just gonna butter up my cake, but add icing to the cake. It's butter icing I'm using for this, so I'm just adding the icing on top of the cake, and I'm just gonna be making it to go all around the cake and all the edges as well, so you can look smoothened out. And this is why I said I'm not a professional. So the cake that I cut, I was supposed to put this side facing up on the other side of the icing, but I did the reverse. So don't listen to me on this part. So I continue doing this, and I'm still adding the icing sugar to it, and I'm just going to smoothen it out on top of the cake as well. And I'm also going to be doing the edges of the cake. And if you're still watching and you've not subscribed, please help me by subscribing. And don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, to like this video if you like this recipe, the coconutiest cake ever, like I said. And don't forget to like and share with friends and family. Thank you, and thank you to everyone who has subscribed to my channel so far. Thank you all. So I'm just adding icing to the rest part of the cake, to the edges, and I'm smoothing it out. Like as you can see, I'm doing, that's just all I'm doing, nothing professional about this. So I'm just gonna be adding desiccated coconut to it right now. I'm just drizzling it in no particular order or fashion. I'm just drizzling it on the cake, and I'll also be drizzling it on everywhere on the edges to make it just look good and really nice. And every bite I'm getting to make sure there's a coconut in it, if that makes sense. So that's what I'm doing right now. I'm just drizzling it all over it. And like I said, I'm also going to be adding the desiccated coconut to the edges, so you can see I'm doing right now. So this is how my coconut look like. A coconut cake look like. It's not professional, but it looks good and it tastes so yum. So now I'm just going to be cutting the coconutiest cake ever. It's filled with every bit of coconut, and it tastes yum. You can skip the normal sugar part or the butter part and use all the coconut ingredients ever, and you're still gonna taste sweet and yum as well. It looks good and tastes very good. Thank you all for watching. See you next week.